In the shadows of ancient scripture, Genesis whispers of a haunting truth, a revelation that chills the soul and ignites the imagination. As humanity multiplied upon the earth, their daughters, radiant in beauty, both mortal and otherworldly, caught the gaze of the sons of God. These celestial beings, creatures of divine origin, were drawn to humanity with an insatiable hunger, a desire that defied the very order of creation. Descending from the heavens, they chose wives without restraint, merging the sacred and the profane in an unholy union. From this dark convergence were born giants, the Nephilim. These behemoths, colossal and commanding, were men of renown, their strength unmatched, their terror enduring. They became echoes of an ancient world, long buried under the sands of time, their deeds immortalized in the trembling whispers of human memory. But our story does not linger in the faint echoes of history. It plunges deeper into the abyss where the shadows stretch long and secrets linger undisturbed. Kandahar, Afghanistan. Its jagged peaks rise like the serrated teeth of some primordial beast clawing at a sky painted in ash and blood. Beneath this unforgiving terrain lies a hidden world, a labyrinth of caves and tunnels carved into the earth's crust. Here, the Nephilim fled as divine wrath swept over the surface, cleansing the world of their kind. Some were consumed by the flood's merciless waves, their forms lost to the deluge, but others, cunning as they were enormous, disappeared into the earth's hollow embrace. Within these depths lies a realm beyond comprehension. The air, thick and oppressive, clings to the skin like a shroud, untouched by time or the mercy of light. A network of caverns extends for thousands of miles, a maze no mortal could navigate and live to tell. This is no mere geological anomaly. It is a forbidden domain, its secrets guarded with a vigilance born of both fear and purpose. At the heart of this underworld are the portals. They shimmer with an unnatural glow, their surfaces rippling like disturbed water. Alive with energy that hums in a low, ominous tone, these gateways, ancient and arcane, defy explanation. They are arteries to a forbidden realm, veins pulsating with power. No man dares cross them, and none could survive if they did. Standing watch over these portals are the Red Clan Nephilim, giants with fiery hair that burns like embers in the darkness. Their grotesque yet majestic forms emanate a terror that seeps into the marrow of those who dare approach. Banished from the world above, they have become unwilling sentinels of the underworld, their existence a punishment they cannot escape. Yet even among the Red Clan, fractures have formed. Time and isolation have taken their toll. Some giants, consumed by madness, have devolved into savage predators, haunting the depths as primal beasts. Others remain resolute, their purpose unyielding as they guard the crystalline cities hidden far below. These underground metropolises, vast and radiant, glisten with an otherworldly light. The crystal structures seem alive, pulsating with energy that defies natural law. It is here, in the hollow heart of the earth, that the Nephilim await their reckoning. The day of atonement looms ever closer, its inevitability a weight they carry in silence. Above ground, the tales of the Red Clan echo through the generations, whispered in the darkest corners of Kandahar. Tribes of the desert, driven by both reverence and fear, paid homage to the giants for centuries. They offered sacrifices, animals left at the mouths of the caves to appease the Nephilim and ensure the safety of their villages. To defy these ancient rituals was to invite unspeakable ruin. Soldiers stationed in the mountains speak of towering figures, glimpsed in the distance, their crimson hair glowing like a warning beacon against the night sky. Explorers tell of unsettling sounds emanating from the caves, groans like grinding stone, and footfalls so heavy they seem to shake the earth. Few who venture into these depths return, and those who do are irrevocably changed, their minds haunted by what they've seen. The portals, pulsating with menace, remain both sentinels and doors, They stand as silent witnesses to an ancient saga of rebellion and despair, their presence a reminder of the catastrophic consequences of defying divine order. The giants guard these paths jealously, for they know the power the portals hold. And yet, a more profound question lingers, heavy and unspoken. What else waits in the darkness? Beyond the Red Clan, beyond the crystalline cities, what ancient and forgotten force stirs in the depths, hungering, watching, and remembering? As the earth trembles and the portals hum with a foreboding melody, the shadows seem to shift. Perhaps the Nephilim are not the only ones awaiting the day of reckoning. For centuries, this tale has lingered like a shadow over my family. My name is Ahmed, and this story is my inheritance, a fragment of our bloodline's haunted past. It takes place in Kandahar, Afghanistan, where the land itself breathes with mystery. The great caves and cavernous depths are not merely hollowed earth, they are sacred and untouchable, their silence broken only by ancient rites. Trespassing is forbidden. Even the bravest dare not cross their threshold without purpose. The Nephilim demand appeasement, their wrath quelled only by blood. At precise moments each year, rituals are performed, animal sacrifices left at the edges of forbidden caves. These offerings maintain a fragile balance, a desperate attempt to keep the giants at bay. But desperation drives men to reckless acts. Muhammad, a soldier beaten and bloodied in the chaos of battle, tells a tale that has haunted my family for generations. Alongside his companion Abdul, he fled into the forbidden caves, their pursuers close behind. The labyrinth consumed them, its suffocating darkness stretching endlessly. Their frantic footsteps echoed like a heartbeat against the unyielding stone, only to be devoured by the oppressive silence. This tale, passed down as a grim warning, lives on in my family's oral tradition, a chilling reminder that some places are forbidden for reasons best left unknown. What they encountered or what encountered them remains a story veiled in mystery, recounted in Muhammad's words.
Muhammad, we must flee. The king's soldiers are upon us, and they are too many to face.
Abdul, our clans are lost. We must seek refuge in the forbidden caves of Kandahar. There's no other choice. Ride hard. As we neared the forbidden caves, our horses slowed, their breaths heavy with exertion. Abdul and I dismounted, quickly gathering what supplies we could carry. With a final pat of gratitude, we set the horses free, hoping their wandering would mislead the king's forces trailing us. From the shadows of the cave's entrance, we watched as the king's scout soldiers chased after the horses, their shouts fading into the distance. The dim light at the mouth of the cavern dwindled as we ventured deeper, the oppressive darkness swallowing us whole. With trembling hands, we lit makeshift torches, their flickering flames casting ghostly shadows on the jagged walls. This cavern was our only refuge. To linger above meant certain death. The king's men would cut us down without hesitation. Yet even here, safety was uncertain. Whispers of the sacred caverns spoke of red-haired giants, behemoths that roamed these depths, their existence both a warning and a curse. Terrified of the legends, the king's soldiers dared not follow us inside. But we had no choice. To evade the wrath of men, we risked the wrath of something far older, far more menacing. As we descended further into the labyrinth, each step felt heavier, the silence around us broken only by the hiss of torches and the pounding of our hearts. The cavern yawned before us, a black maw swallowing the faint light of our torches. The flickering flames cast trembling shadows against the jagged walls, their dance eerie and unsteady. Each step forward seemed heavier than the last, as if the earth itself resisted our intrusion. Deeper we ventured, the oppressive darkness pressing against us like a living thing. The air grew colder, denser, laden with a weight that gnawed at our resolve. Faint, unearthly sounds echoed from the unseen depths, soft whispers that brushed against the edge of hearing, low growls that rumbled like distant thunder, and occasional bone-chilling clicks that seemed too deliberate to be mere echoes. Our eyes darted to every corner, our ears straining to discern whether the noises were tricks of the mind or something more sinister. The cavern felt alive, as though it breathed with an ancient malevolent rhythm. "Abdul," I whispered, my voice barely breaking the heavy silence. "Do you feel it? The air, it's pure." He nodded, his face pale in the torchlight, his grip tightening on the crude torch as though it were the only tether to sanity. Yet, despite the growing dread, we pressed onward, drawn by the grim reality behind us and the haunting uncertainty ahead. The further we went, the clearer it became. This place was no refuge. It was mysteriously foreign.
Muhammad, can we stop and rest for a moment?
"Sure, Abdul. Let's rest here and start a fire." It seemed safe enough. The flickering light of our torches struggled against the cavern's yawning darkness, casting fleeting shadows that danced like specters across the massive, jagged walls. The immensity of the space swallowed us whole, the oppressive silence broken only by the crackle of our small fire. We sat close to its warmth, eating what little rations we had carried with us. Each bite felt hollow, our hunger dulled by the tension gripping us. Were the king's soldiers still out there, scouring the land for our trail? Or had they turned back, deterred by the cursed reputation of these forbidden caverns? The uncertainty gnawed at us, but to venture outside was unthinkable. The stillness around us gave way to a sinister symphony. Eerie, disjointed noises echoed through the tunnels. Distant cries that sounded like wounded animals. Guttural growls that seemed too deep to belong to any creature we knew. And the soft, deliberate patter of something moving far away. The echoes wrapped around us, making it impossible to tell where the sounds began or ended. We spoke little, our voices feeling unwelcome in this ancient hollow place. Exhausted from the journey, we tended to our wounds in uneasy silence. The fire's dim light flickered against the weight of the shadows, but its feeble warmth offered little comfort. Sleep eventually overcame us, though it felt more like surrender than rest. I lay near the dying fire, tormented by a sense that we were not alone. The sounds in the cavern seemed closer now, less distant, as if the darkness itself crept nearer with every passing moment. As I drifted into uneasy dreams, I couldn't shake the feeling that the cavern was watching, breathing, waiting. And somewhere deep within its uncharted depths, something was stirring. A deafening roar tore through the cavern, jolting us from our uneasy sleep. My heart pounded as I scrambled upright, the dying embers of our fire casting flickering shadows on the walls. There it stood, a hulking figure, towering at least 12 feet tall, its silhouette grotesque and terrifying against the dim light. Its voice reverberated through the cave, a guttural, otherworldly sound that seemed to come from the depths of the earth itself. "Abdul!" I hissed, panic tightening my throat. Without hesitation, Abdul unsheathed his sword, its faint gleam trembling in his grip. Before he could even take a step, a spear shot out of the darkness with blinding speed, lifting him off the ground as if he weighed nothing. "Abdul, no!" His scream echoed once, then faded into silence. My friend was gone, his lifeless body consumed by the shadows of the cavern. The weight of loss pressed against my chest, but the thunderous footsteps approaching snapped me back to reality. I tightened my grip on the torch, the only barrier between me and the encroaching darkness. Something moved, fast, too fast for my eyes to follow. Yet in the flickering light, I caught glimpses. A flash of red hair, massive limbs, and a presence that radiated raw primal power. Before I could react, A net descended from the darkness, ensnaring me with ease. The world spun violently as I was flung against the unforgiving cave walls, pain blossoming in my skull. Darkness claimed me, but only briefly. When I awoke, blood trickled down my face, warm and sticky. My heart thundered as I realized I was still in its grasp, its enormous hand holding me like a rag doll. The creature was immense, its hulking frame illuminated by the eerie glow of crystals lining the cavern walls. Their ethereal light painted the path ahead, revealing a labyrinth that seemed to stretch endlessly. I had no sense of time or distance, only the suffocating realization that we were plunging deeper into the earth. The air grew heavier, charged with unexplainable energy. Then we emerged into a clearing, and my breath caught. Before me was a forest, its towering trees stretching impossibly high. A shimmering waterfall cascaded into a crystal-clear pool, the scene breathtakingly surreal. For a moment, I forgot the terror, overwhelmed by the sheer beauty of the subterranean paradise. Yet unease gnawed at the edges of my awe. The trees, the insects, even the air itself, it was all colossal, alien. How could such a world exist beneath the earth? And why had this creature brought me here? The sky above was unlike anything I'd ever seen, unnatural, alien, and unsettling. It churned with shifting hues, neither day nor night, as if it belonged to a world outside time itself. The giant set me down at the edge of a towering waterfall, its roar deafening yet strangely hollow, echoing through the cavernous expanse. I watched in paralyzed silence as the creature knelt, dipping its grotesque hands into the cascading water to drink deeply. Then it turned to me. Its gaze burned into my soul, a predatory intelligence shining in its inhuman eyes. With deliberate movements, it gripped the net holding me, tilting it just enough for the water to reach my lips. Trembling, I drank through the coarse weave, my fear suffocating every gulp. And then it spoke. Confusion gripped me as the giant attempted to communicate. Its guttural sounds were alien, a language both primitive and profound, yet laced with a strange intent. I dared not respond, fear and uncertainty binding my tongue as I struggled to comprehend its purpose. It turned away and lumbered toward a massive boulder near the waterfall. The sound that escaped its throat was low and resonant, a noise that seemed to ripple through the very air. To my shock, the immense rock began to tremble, shifting as though alive. The giant grasped it effortlessly, lifting the massive stone as if it weighed nothing, and set it aside, with precision. I barely had time to process what I was witnessing before it returned, its hand closing around the net that confined me. Hoisted once more like a helpless offering, I was carried deeper into the darkness. My torch long extinguished, the only light came from the cavern walls, shimmering with eerie otherworldly crystals. The giant chanted again, its voice echoing through the crystalline expanse. Behind us, the massive boulder rumbled, sliding back into place with a finality that left my stomach knotted. My heart pounded as the cavern's walls grew narrower, the air colder. Every step it took pulled me further from the world I knew, and with each passing moment, the question loomed larger. Where is it taking me? The cavern walls shimmered with crystals, their cold, ethereal light casting haunting reflections in every direction. As we moved deeper, the narrow passage suddenly gave way to a massive chamber, its vast expanse illuminated by an otherworldly glow. My breath hitched as a hulking figure emerged from the shadows. a giant, even larger and more imposing than the one who had captured me. Its presence was overwhelming, its form radiating an aura of power that seemed to press down on the air itself. The giant carrying me lowered the net to the ground with unsettling reverence. Then, without a word, it bowed deeply toward the other figure. The gesture was one of unwavering submission, a silent acknowledgement of dominance. Without so much as a glance back, it turned and lumbered away into the darkness. The massive being loomed over me, its piercing gaze burning into my soul. And then it spoke.
My name is Magon. I am the gatekeeper and the holder of the key between realms. Human, you are a prisoner of the Nephilim Imperial Empire. You have been chosen for scientific study.
The giant's voice was guttural and ancient, its words a cryptic melody of power and menace. I stood frozen, struggling to grasp its meaning, but the intent in its tone was undeniable. It spoke of a gate, something I hadn't noticed in the cavern's dim crystalline light. Then its eyes flared, an intense unnatural red, illuminating the shadows around us. My breath caught as the air seemed to ripple and shift, revealing what I had been blind to before. A massive portal materialized before me, its golden frame impossibly intricate, like a relic crafted by divine hands. The portal glowed with a brilliance that rivaled the sun, bathing the cavern in an overwhelming light. Fear clawed at my chest. This was no earthly creation. No human mind could conceive of such a thing. The air around it hummed with a resonance that sank into my very bones. The giant, now identified as Magon, approached the portal. Its colossal hand closed around me with alarming ease, lifting me as if I were weightless. I struggled, but it was futile. With deliberate steps, Magon carried me into the radiant threshold. On the other side, I was met with a sight that defied belief. A city of breathtaking beauty sprawled before me, constructed entirely of glowing crystals. The architecture was otherworldly, and I realized with a shuddering certainty, this was the home of the Nephilim. As we stepped through the portal, I found myself in a realm unlike anything I had ever imagined. The brilliance of the crystalline city stretched far beyond comprehension, its beauty almost surreal. But even the splendor of this place paled in comparison to what awaited. She emerged, a vision of perfection, an aura of dominance enveloping her. Her skin was flawless, glowing like polished marble. Her movements were deliberate, every step radiating power and grace. She was not merely beautiful, she was otherworldly, untouchable. Magon, the imposing gatekeeper, lowered his massive frame in deference as he presented me to her. Then, without a word, he turned and disappeared, returning to his eternal vigil at the portal, leaving me alone in her presence. She stood before me, Una, the queen of this realm and the lead genetic scientist of the Nephilim. Her piercing gaze held me captive, her lips curling into a faint smile that carried no warmth, only an unsettling sense of control. Her voice, smooth yet laced with an unspoken threat, broke the silence. She spoke in vague, cryptic terms of the Nephilim's long and shadowed history with humankind, her words both fascinating and foreboding. Then she addressed me directly, her tone sharp and calculating, as if weighing my very existence.
What is your name, human?
My name is Muhammad. My village was attacked by a feudal king's army, forcing Abdul and me to seek refuge in the sacred cave. Your kind killed my friend.
Muhammad, in this realm we protect at all costs. When your friend drew his weapon, it was seen as aggression, and the Guardian responded with force. It was unfortunate.
Una, why have you brought me here?
You are here for our genetics program, Muhammad. Despite our differences, Nephilim and human DNA are remarkably similar. Since the Great War on the surface, We can no longer reproduce.
Unna's voice was calm, yet each word carried the weight of an ancient, unending struggle. She explained that a war raged on Earth long before humanity's time, a brutal conflict between the Empyrean caste, the so-called Sky People, and the Nephilim. Though the Great Flood drove the Nephilim underground, the war didn't end. It simply moved beneath the surface. In this lightless world, a new enemy emerged, the Trontoloids, an ancient, insect-like species from a distant galaxy. These creatures, loyal to the Empyrean caste, laid claim to the depths of the Earth. On the surface, they masqueraded as humans, hiding in plain sight. But in the underworld, they waged a relentless war, determined to annihilate the Nephilim. Unna described how the Trontoloids' advanced technology and telepathic abilities allowed them to control colossal subterranean creatures, enormous boar worms and other monstrous insects enslaved to assault Nephilim cities. Her words painted a bleak picture of endless battles and devastating loss. I felt a crushing sense of helplessness, like a pawn caught between giants. Unna seemed to sense my unease, her gaze softening as we continued deeper into this crystalline world. We passed through the immense crystal gates of the Nephilim city, Zephyros, its otherworldly beauty offset by an undercurrent of danger. She led me to the scientific hall, a towering crystal structure glimmering with an eerie internal light. Inside, rows of cryogenic chambers stood like silent sentinels. Each contained a Nephilim, their sizes ranging from 15 feet tall to the height of very tall buildings. These were not ordinary warriors. They were relics of a forgotten age, giants who had walked the earth before the Great Flood. I stared, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of what I was seeing. These ancient beings, suspended in eternal slumber, held the secrets of an epoch long erased from history. Their presence was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a reminder of a war that had no end. And I was now entangled in it. Unna's presence was an enigma, a mixture of warmth and authority that seemed to mask a deep weariness. Though I remained a prisoner, I couldn't ignore a strange bond forming between us. Perhaps it was pity, or some unspoken connection, but it unsettled me as much as it reassured me. My instincts as a soldier kept me alert, though fear clawed at the edges of my mind. I sensed the tension within her. Despite her composed exterior, the unending war with the Trontoloids had worn her down. Unna spoke of battles waged beneath the earth, a war with no treaties, no reprieve. The Trontoloids were relentless, driven by their lust for domination. Her voice tinged with both sorrow and inevitability. Peace was not an option. For the Nephilim, survival meant perpetual war, a grim determination to hold their crystalline cities against the encroaching darkness. These cities, luminous and sprawling, were scattered across the vast underworld. To travel between them required the use of ancient portals, gateways that shimmered with energy and bridged the expanse of their subterranean realm. I was confined to a translucent enclosure that seemed impenetrable. It glowed faintly, as though alive, casting an eerie light that mirrored my unease. Though a captive, I wasn't mistreated. They brought me food from the Imperial Garden, fruits and vegetables unlike any I'd ever seen, their size almost grotesque in their abundance. I ate, unable to shake the dread that coiled tighter with every passing moment. The Nephilim scientists visited often, their strange, silent figures using advanced tools to extract samples of my blood and skin. The machinery was unlike anything I could comprehend, sleek and cold, emitting sounds that felt like whispers. Days blurred into nights, or so I assumed. Time here was elusive, slipping through my grasp like sand through fingers, When I asked Una how long I had been in their world, her answer froze my blood.
Time here flows differently, Muhammad. What feels like a single day on the surface may span decades beneath the earth. For us, time is irrelevant, we do not age.
Her words struck like a hammer to my chest. The implications unraveled me. If I somehow escaped, the world above might be unrecognizable. My village, my people, gone, consumed by the relentless passage of time. I sat in silence, despair gripping me like a vice. Even in my captivity, I was haunted by the chilling reality. There was no going back. The world I knew was already slipping away. After my long conversation with Una, sleep claimed me like a heavy fog, dragging me into uneasy dreams. But the peace shattered abruptly. A deafening, bone-chilling alarm reverberated through Zephyros, its sound like the anguished wail of something alive. My heart raced as I bolted upright, the crystalline walls vibrating ominously. The city trembled under the onslaught. Zephyros was under siege, the outer gates breached by a monstrous boar worm, its massive body undulating as it carved a path of destruction. The Trontoloids had come, their dark insectoid forms swarming with precision, driving the chaos ever deeper into the city. The air vibrated with the unearthly screeches of their telepathic commands, and the roar of energy weapons wielded by the Nephilim defenders. From my translucent prison, I watched in horror as the Nephilim, towering and powerful, fell one by one to the relentless assault. Their energy weapons, magnificent as they were, barely slowed the boar worm, which dwarfed even the largest of the Nephilim. The creature's massive drills tore into the crystalline walls, the city shaking with each relentless strike. Ona had vanished into the fray with the others, her determination palpable. The battle outside raged, a cacophony of screams, blasts, and the grotesque chittering of the Trontoloids. My heart pounded as I felt the walls of my enclosure shudder. Then she appeared, Una, bloodied and battered, her once pristine form marred with deep wounds. She limped into the facility, each step a testament to her resolve. Her gaze burned with purpose, though her body was clearly failing. Whatever her intentions, she was intent on reaching me, even as the city teetered on the brink of collapse. Una, you're hurt. Are you okay?
I'm fine, Muhammad, but I must set you free. We're evacuating the city and activating the shields. I'll get you to the portal where Magon awaits to take you back to the surface.
But what about you, Una?
I'll survive, Muhammad. But if the Trontoloids capture you, it will mean your end.
Una carried me in a strange contraption strapped to her back, her immense form moving with a speed and urgency that belied her injuries. The crystalline caverns beneath the city stretched endlessly, their jagged formations casting eerie, fractured reflections of light. Shadows danced along the walls as her hurried steps echoed through the hollow expanse, a sound that felt both protective and ominous. The tremors of the battle above reverberated through the caverns, the city of Zephyros groaning under the assault. I clung to the straps of the carrier, my heart pounding as I glanced back, expecting at any moment to see the monstrous forms of the Trontoloids in pursuit. The caverns seemed alive, their glowing walls pulsing faintly, as though the crystals themselves bore witness to our flight. Una pressed on, her breathing heavy but determined. Every second felt stretched, suspended in the stillness of this subterranean labyrinth. When we emerged at the portal chamber, Magon stood guard, his colossal frame locked in combat against a team of Trontoloid scouts. Their twisted forms shimmered faintly under the dim glow of the portal, their movements unnervingly alien. Magon's neon-red eyes burned like embers as he fought, the activation sequence of the portal casting ripples of golden light across the cavern. Una set me down swiftly, her focus shifting to the battle at hand. With a roar that echoed like thunder, she joined Magon, wielding her massive weapon with precision. Energy blasts illuminated the chamber in bursts of light and shadow, casting fleeting, nightmarish silhouettes on the crystalline walls. The air was thick with tension, a palpable dread that crawled beneath my skin as I watched the giants wage war to protect the portal. And me. Time felt like it was slipping away, every second teetering on the brink of destruction.
Magon, take the human through the portal. I'll hold off the Trontoloids until you return.
Yes, my queen, I will comply with your wishes.
As Magon ushered me through the portal, I cast a final desperate glance back at Una. She stood amidst the chaos, a towering figure of defiance, battling the relentless Trontoloids with an intensity that bordered on otherworldly. Her weapon carved arcs of light through the darkness, illuminating her fierce resolve. For a brief moment, our eyes met, and though no words were exchanged, her glance carried a silent promise, an unyielding assurance that I would survive. The portal's energy swirled around me, and in an instant, I was pulled into its blinding vortex. When my feet touched solid ground again, I found myself in the crystalline caverns, their eerie glow casting fragmented light across the jagged walls. Magon stood beside me, his imposing figure a brief comfort amidst my fear. He ensured my safety with a curt nod before reigniting the portal. I watched in helpless awe as he stepped back through the shimmering gateway, his massive frame disappearing into the maelstrom. For a fleeting moment, before the portal shut down, I glimpsed them, Una and Magon, fighting side by side, their silhouettes locked in combat against the Trontoloid's nightmarish forms. Then, the portal winked out, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence of the caverns. I waited, the crystalline stillness amplifying my unease. Suddenly, a familiar sound echoed through the cavern, low, guttural, and drawing closer. My heart froze. The red-headed guardian giant loomed, his massive hands shifting the stone with eerie ease. As the earth trembled, I was dragged back into the depths, swallowed by the suffocating darkness of the subterranean forest.
You made it back, human, and Una has spared your life. I will take you back to the surface, but it is not the same. Time has passed, and you will witness strange things in your realm.
The giant seized his massive net with practiced ease, enclosing me within its confines as if I weighed nothing at all. I dangled helplessly, suspended like a captured insect as he carried me through the sacred caverns. His colossal strides echoed in the vast emptiness, each step reverberating like a drumbeat of doom. We passed through a subterranean forest, its enormity both awe-inspiring and unnerving. Towering trees with gnarled roots stretched skyward, their twisted limbs clawing at the dim, bioluminescent glow. The air felt alive, humming with an ancient energy that made the hairs on my neck rise. Shadows danced among the foliage, their shapes indistinct and haunting, like phantoms watching our passage. As we reached the cave's entrance, the sense of time dissolved into an incomprehensible haze. It felt as though we had traveled for days, yet it could have been mere moments, an unsettling contradiction that left my mind spiraling. We came upon a cavern so vast it seemed to stretch endlessly, its crystalline walls shimmering with an eerie, unearthly light. Mist coiled around us, thick and otherworldly, clinging to my skin like a dulled whisper. It wasn't ordinary fog. It seemed alive, pulsing with a rhythm I couldn't fathom. I felt a strange pull, as though reality itself were bending and twisting around us. The air shimmered, and the sensation of crossing into another plane gripped me. We were passing through something unfathomable, a rift in time and space. The Guardian set me down gently in the flickering dimness of the sacred cave. A faint fire illuminated the cavern, casting long, restless shadows across its walls. My breath hitched as I noticed the ground was littered with bones, human and animal alike, strewn carelessly in grim disarray. This was not how I'd left it. The sight tightened a cold grip around my chest. How much time had passed since I had first entered this realm?
Sergeant, it's here!
A low, guttural sound cut through the uneasy silence. It came from the direction of the cave's entrance, far beyond where we stood, yet chillingly close in its intent. The noise grew louder, morphing into a language I could not comprehend, its cadence alien and sinister. Each syllable echoed, reverberating off the walls like a malevolent chant. The red-haired Guardian stiffened. He tightened his grip on his spear, the firelight catching the edge of its polished blade. His massive form seemed almost vulnerable against the oppressive weight of the sounds. His glowing eyes darted towards the entrance, and though his face betrayed no fear, a palpable unease hung around him like a shadow. Without breaking his gaze from the darkness beyond, the Guardian spoke in a low, rumbling tone that sent a shiver crawling down my spine.
Human, after centuries, they've finally found me. I've opened an escape route deeper into the caverns, away from them. They've hunted me, seeking the ancient portal, now sealed. I'll hold them off. Go. Go now, human. Quickly.
The secret passage through the Kandahar mountain range lay ahead, a narrow path shrouded in the suffocating quiet of the underground caverns. But the silence shattered abruptly. A guttural, thunderous roar echoed behind me. It was the red-haired Guardian. His cry was a command, a warning. "Run!" I turned to see him charging toward the assailants who had emerged from the shadows. From the adjacent cavern, I watched in horrified awe as he hurled his spear with terrifying force, impaling one of the intruders. His massive form loomed over the others as he advanced, each step a rumble that shook the ground beneath me. But the attackers were prepared. Their weapons were unlike anything I had ever seen. Sleek, otherworldly devices that fired projectiles with devastating precision. Sparks erupted as their strange weaponry struck the Guardian's flesh, slowing his onslaught. He roared again, a sound of defiance and agony that reverberated through the cavern. With a final, earth-shaking cry, he collapsed to his knees, then fell to the ground, his colossal body sprawled lifeless as the assailants closed in. My heart thundered in my chest as I bolted towards the other side of the passage. Rocks crumbled and fell around me, sealing the cavern behind me and cutting off any hope of return. I burst into the sunlight, gasping for air, only to find myself face to face with another nightmare. Strange soldiers stood ahead, clad in desert camouflage, their weapons gleaming under the harsh daylight. They spoke in clipped, guttural tones into small communication devices, their movements precise, methodical. My breath hitched as I crouched low, my mind racing. Who were these soldiers, and what new horror had I stumbled into?
Delta 1 to base, we have Red 1 secured. Repeat, Red 1 is secured. 1 casualty, Sergeant Daniel Ramses, KIA during engagement.
Delta 1, a helicopter is en route to extract Red 1 and the rest of your team. Acknowledge.
Affirmative base. Coordinates transmitted, awaiting extraction.
A deep hum filled the air, drawing my gaze upward. A strange machine hovered in the sky, its shadow slicing through the harsh sunlight. It descended toward the lifeless form of the red-haired Guardian. Suspended by a massive net, the Guardian's body was hoisted into the air as the soldiers below secured the cargo. The flying machine emitted an eerie mechanical whine as it carried the fallen giant away, its silhouette shrinking against the vast sky. The landscape around me felt alien, an uncanny blend of familiarity and wrongness. The desert sands bore strange, shimmering irrigation terminals, glinting under the sun like silent sentinels of a foreign era. I pressed forward, the desolation of the desert echoing my thoughts. The red-haired guardian's sacrifice haunted me. His colossal form burned into my memory. He had given his life to protect the Zephyros Nephilim Empire, and inexplicably, me. Hours stretched into eternity until I finally arrived at my village. But it wasn't the village I remembered. Lights blinked eerily from poles along the streets, and mechanical horses clattered across the ground, their metallic hooves sparking faintly. I froze, taking in the strange, surreal scene. Faces turned toward me, their expressions filled with a mix of curiosity and unease. My clothes marked me as an anomaly, a relic from another time. An elderly man sat nearby, his trembling hand outstretched for money. His eyes, clouded with age, seemed to plead for recognition. The surreal quiet of the village pressed in around me, as if the world had shifted into an unfamiliar dreamscape. I stayed silent, my heart pounding as I tried to make sense of it all. What had happened to my village? What had happened to time? Sir, could you tell me the date?
Today is Saturday. Could you spare some change?
I don't have any money, but could you tell me what month and year it is?
It's August 2002. You seem disoriented. I don't have much, but here's some change for food and clothes. I haven't seen that attire in years.
The weight of time crushed down on me as the truth unraveled. It was 2002. When I left, it was 1925. 77 years had passed, stolen from me in the blink of an eye. The realization clawed at my mind, an overwhelming tide of confusion and grief. How could this be? The world I once knew had slipped into the abyss of history, replaced by a strange and unfamiliar reality. I fought to steady myself, to accept this impossible truth. Life had to go on, even in a world where I was a relic. A kind family took me in, offering shelter and kindness amidst the chaos of wars that now ravaged the land. Their compassion was a lifeline in this disorienting new age. As time wore on, I confided my story to a young man named Ahmed. He called me Uncle, a term that brought me both comfort and a sharp reminder of my place as a man out of time. To my astonishment, he believed me. His eyes reflected wonder rather than doubt, as though he too sensed the hidden threads of the world's mysteries. Now, as the years weigh heavy on me, my story remains unchanged. The Nephilim, the war, the sacrifices, they are all etched into my memory. I'm certain of one thing. We are not alone, and the truth of our past is far more intricate than we dare to comprehend.